Hello, Frictionless Families. We're going to be starting a new series today on discipline, and this is going to be the first installment. It will run a little bit longer, I think, than most of them. Probably around 10 minutes is going to be my guess, but this is so important because this is the best advice I ever received, and so that's what we're going to unpack today. I was about ready to student teach. So I was in college. I was going to be a band director. So student teaching for me wasn't 20 kids in a classroom. It was 200 kids on a football field armed with trombones and drummers, right? All student teachers are worried about losing control of their classroom. And I was especially concerned about this because it's harder to control 200 people than 20 in a room. So we rolled in, I'm in my last class, and the topic for the day was going to be discipline in classroom management. The teacher was Dennis Fisher. He was one of my professors in college. He said two things to me that literally changed not only the way that I taught and the way that I've worked in the workplace, but they have been especially helpful with parenting. And this is what he said. He said two things. First one is be firm, fair, and consistent. And the second one is don't smile for the first 6 weeks. So fast forward about 6 months, I finished the student teaching. It went very well. And I have been hired in El Paso, signed a contract to teach elementary music at the largest elementary school in Texas. And it was also the fastest growing elementary school in Texas. And what I was looking at was a workload of around 1,300 students per week, which is 260 kids a day, or about 50 kids per classroom. The thing is, it was in El Paso, so about half of those 50 kids spoke no English whatsoever. I didn't speak Spanish. On top of that, I was 24 years old and I had never taught before. And so before it was time to teach for those last couple of weeks of the summer, I was really thinking, how am I going to do this? And I had two goals for teaching. One was to be the most beloved teacher in the school and to have more fun than anybody else did, because I'm a music teacher, right? If it's not fun, you're not doing it right. The second one is I did not want to lose control of my classroom. So I had to make a decision that though I wanted to be one of the favorite teachers and have one of the most fun classes, I decided to put that on the back burner, and I was not going to try and be a fun teacher. I wasn't going to try and be a nice teacher at the beginning. I was going to be a very, very strict teacher, and that's exactly what I did. And I remember when he said that, he smiled, but I knew he wasn't joking. He was dead serious. And as I thought about it, what I really learned, it's not about not smiling. What it's about is commanding respect. And I decided I'm going to follow his advice to the T. And so I did. And those first 6 weeks, I was pretty hard on the kids. And the thing that was interesting is it didn't take 6 weeks. It only took about 3 weeks. But by the end of 3 weeks, those kids understood that I was absolutely serious when I asked them to do something, that I fully expected them to comply with it, and that I expected them to do it right away. And it was not long before I was able to let go and to loosen up the reins on the class, and then we could really start having fun. So the first point about not smiling for the first 6 weeks isn't about smiling. It's actually about respect. And as I've thought about this over the years, I have come to learn, especially as a parent, that respect actually comes before being liked and before being loved in some cases. And you can think about this. Think of somebody that you don't respect. Do you like them? You don't. It's really hard to like somebody that you don't respect. In the Christian world, sometimes we are called to love people that we don't respect, but that's a whole nother video, right? But even when you're called to do that, it's very difficult. Respect usually comes first. And as parents, we definitely want to remember that. What this gave me the ability to do with my students was to say, hey, kids, I am not happy with how class is going. And if you remember at the beginning of the school year, we had Mean Mr. K, who was your teacher, right? If you guys don't shape up, I'm going to go get Mean Mr. K. And even 4-year-olds understood this concept. 4-year-olds who spoke no English got it too. It was no problem for them to get their head around it. And they learned that the way that they behaved in the classroom determined how I was going to have to interact with them. And so that is a great lesson for anybody to learn. The second thing he said was to be firm, fair, and consistent. Firm, that's easy. Whatever we say, consequences need to have some teeth to them. You have a 12-year-old and you give them 1 minute timeout. That's not going to give you any results. It's going to be worthless. Fair is a little bit more difficult. Each of the kids needs to have the same set of rules applied to them in a way that's fair and appropriate for them. But if you have one kid that requires a lot of attention, right, you have to instruct them a lot, and another kid who's very compliant, if that compliant kid does something that the kid who requires a lot of attention does, if he does the same thing, but he doesn't get similar consequences, your kids are going to see that and they know you're playing favorites, and that is not what you want. The last part, consistent, that's the hardest part for parents, because at the end of the day, we're all tired. And so our kids, we ask them to do something, they don't follow up right away, they do it with a bad attitude. If we let that slide, and you do that a lot, and my wife and I have failed at this quite a bit, I think everybody has. But what that equates to is a missed opportunity, and you had a chance, a teaching opportunity for those kids, and you missed it. So the consistent part is actually the dying to self and turning off the TV or whatever it is that you're doing, and sometimes you have to do it even when it hurts. So that's the crux of what I'm going to talk about, but I want to finish with just a very quick story about the moment that I realized how good Mr. Fisher's advice was. I was finishing my teaching career in elementary school, and I was having a rehearsal. I was going to do a program with 1,300 students, every kid in the school, and I was doing the rehearsal for the second graders. And I look around, and I notice there's about 250 or 300 second graders all on risers up in the gym. And it's just quiet. And I can talk. They're doing what I said. They're listening. They're not fidgeting. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I turned around expecting to see the teachers. And so I turn around and I look, and I notice there is nobody in the gym but me. It's me, almost 300 second graders. And I realized, wow, there's 300 of them. They could overwhelm me and probably kill me if they wanted to, right? But they didn't, because I'd had years training those kids and what I expected. They all got it. They understood it. And that's when it hit me. I says, man, that firm, fair, and consistent, and don't smile for the first 6 weeks. I said, I can't believe how well this has worked. I really owe Mr. Fisher a debt of gratitude. So, Mr. Fisher, thank you very much. I could have titled this an ode to Dennis Fisher, but I hope that you'll get my heart on this. And for you families out there, I hope that this helps you to be a little bit friction less. Thank you.